hauntings.
Hello? Ooh, what the?
Yes. Beautiful. Alright. And action. And cut. I'll have you guys come back.
Shanico Hotel. Once a high-functioning establishment of life dating back to 1902, the hotel thrived during the height of success of the local wool industry in Oregon. Now, the hotel resides in a lively little ghost town that hosts passing-by tourists and holds haunting residents from beyond. Welcome to Shanico. Enjoy your stay. I drove out to Shanico, Oregon to work press and media for the Shanico Days 50th anniversary event. My job was to celebrate the town and record anything and everything I could. I'm honored that one of the things they allowed me to record and explore was the historic Shanico Hotel. The ghost town and the hotel is rich with charm and history, so it's no wonder it serves as a home to numerous haunting spirits of the past. You can't help but feel the history of the hotel watching you, a history that likes to make itself known. There's Nettie, Amelia, and many other characters of this little ghost town that found the light by lurking in these halls. When you think of hauntings, you think of something scary, like Stephen King's The Shining. But many of these ghosts aren't here to scare you away. The ghosts in this hotel are much more welcoming. I've learned some of these spirits are nurturing, playful, and curious little ghosts, making the best of their forever home. Not all ghosts are lost. If I was a ghost, I wouldn't mind getting goosebumps in a place like this. And trust me, They gave me many goosebumps.
Do you think the hotel is haunted?
I know it is. There's no doubt. Yeah, there's no doubt. When I first came through Shaniko, when I was, probably 17, 18 years old, I got stuck in a snowstorm here. I had a Lincoln Mark 8, you know what that is. It was this high off the ground. They don't do good in snow. They do great on the freeway in the summer, and you can do 105, but they don't like snow. So I got here, and I was the only one in the hotel. I had to go to the owner's house, knock on his door. I had to come up and open the door. And I get a room, which is now room 7 upstairs. And yeah, they made themselves very well known very quickly. So I get upstairs, and so I heard a toilet flush. And it's when the 2 toilets are clear in the other end of the hall. And I distinctly know that pull chain toilet sound. Okay, why did the toilet just flush? So I go down the hallway, and I started to go down towards the main stairs, and I can hear people talking. Lots of people talking. Could not make out what they were saying. It was kind of a whisper. You could hear the tones of the voices. And then I ran around the corner, silent. So I get all the way down to the bathrooms. Sure enough, it's just finished filling up. And I turn around and I can hear the voices down where my room is. So this went on for a little bit, just chasing these noises. And then they would laugh. You'd literally hear them laughing. And I'm like, great. That's great. So, and I started to head back to the room, the toilet flushed again. And then the other one flushed. So I turned around and went back down there. Someone's got to be in this building. All the doors were locked. I get downstairs, and you can hear people going up and down the stairs. You can hear them walking across the floor because they didn't have the carpets then. And I went, okay, I'm just going to go sit in my room. I go sit in my room, and just sat in the room and knock on the door. A hard knock on my door. I get up. Okay, now I know somebody's in the building. Open the door. Nobody. Have you been upstairs? They can't run that fast to get out of the way. There's nowhere you can duck in and hide. Looking out the window. Great. Close the door. Sat down in the bed. Bang, bang, bang. Knock again. Got up. Opened the door. Same thing. So this time I closed the door and I stood at the door with my hand on the door handle. And bang, bang, bang. Open the door. I would have hit him. No one. And I went, great. I hope you guys are having fun. You can hear the laughing down the end of the hall. So I closed the door, and it started rapping, like they're opening. And I said, why don't you just open the door? And I get another couple knocks. So I just opened the door, let it stay open. And I thought I heard the downstairs door open. Oh, maybe someone else is coming in to get a room. And I'm halfway down the stairs and realizing that door's locked. I'm peeking out the front lobby doors, they're closed. And I hear my door slam close. Get up there, went to open the door, my door's locked. Key in the room. Okay. Now this is getting to be about 1 o'clock in the morning already, 1:30. So, well, guess I'll go downstairs and use the hotel phone and call the guy to come up and get a spare key. And I started to walk down the hall, and you hear my door open. So I walked back down there, went in my room, I said, it's almost 2 in the morning, would you leave me alone? I don't know who you are, I don't know what to did you, just leave me alone. They were just laughing. You just heard laughter. Downstairs, upstairs. silent. Just went, everything went silent. That was the first time I was in the building.
And you stayed.
And I stayed. So the morning came, and I'm like, yep, there's still snow. I'm going to be here for a little bit. And by like 11 o'clock, there's no snow. This is gone. You know, it does after. And the owner came back, well, how was the night? I said, oh, a little disturbing. He goes, oh, yeah, I know what you're saying. And that was all he would say about it.
Ask you similar questions I asked David.
They agree.
You're next. Your interview's next. So, are you scared of any of the ghosts in the hotel?
Never.
Are you kind of comforted by it?
Absolutely. They are different than any ghost I've ever encountered. They will leave you alone if they know you're afraid of them. They just mind their own business, but it's also their home. And so understanding that, not disrespecting their home with like Ouija boards, and because we've had people bring in things that have brought in other things that were not fun to deal with, but they do a really good job of protecting their home and us. Like they're really cool. You can play blackjack with Nettie if you have some kind of way to communicate with her, like a flashlight or a candle, or she'll play cards with you. I mean, they're really harmless.
What makes the hotel so haunted? Like, what's your experiences with the hotel?
It's I think the environment and the people, both living and dead. So, or past. There's a couple ghosts in there that I personally have talked to or communicated with, and that would be Nettie.
Room 14 had a spirit in there who was really, really sorrowful. Just, you'd feel the heaviness when you'd walk in the room, and just sadness, and sometimes you'd smell perfume.
And the presence when she's around is very like motherly, caring, but also like, you know, stay in line.
So we tried to figure out who this was, and we finally, someone said it was Natilda or Annette or something, and then someone else said no, it's Annette, and then it came out to be Nettie, and that was the primary name. It was Nettie, but we never got a last name. We never got anything more than that, or why she was so sad. And then somebody else came by and said, well, she lost her baby.
Nettie lost her child during childbirth and her own life.
Amelia showed up. Amelia's a 4-year-old. She showed up maybe 6 to 8 months ago. And the only thing we could get from her was she thought she lived in a place called Texas or something like that, and was put in a trunk, and apparently died in the trunk. And she wandered a while and ended up here somehow, and Nettie just snatched her.
And she has kind of taken in Amelia, which has been really cool to see, because you can feel that little girl presence, and then this motherly presence of like, okay, it's 9 o'clock at night, stop rolling your ball down the hallway or down the stairs, you know, and there's nobody else in the hotel that could yeet the ball down the stairs. So
So once in a while, her ball that she likes to throw around the hall and throw it down the stairs, if she does that too much, Nettie hides the ball for punishment. If you can't play nice, you're not going to play with your ball.
this blue ball, who knows where it came from. And I thought it was my kids running up and down the hallways, and I'm like, guys, you can't be doing this. And then I find them unconscious, sleeping in their beds, snoring. And there's this ball rolling up and down the hallway and a little girl laughing. And I'm like, okay, that is totally kind of creepy. And then there's Dorothy, which I haven't seen much of her. She stands at the end of the hallway where room 20 is, in that window. She really likes that, and the balcony. And if you go on the balcony, you can see there really isn't a place for a person to stand. And then Sheriff. Sheriff is totally room 6. So, and he is mischievous, especially with our feminine guests.
sheriff's naughty.
Yes, naughty sheriff.
The mayor can get a little, he pushes the limits. He has gotten violent once. That was witnessed. Actually, he did it more than once. It was only that I personally witnessed, and had to deal with him in a way that he didn't like. Because if we're gonna have guests in there, we can't have him getting hurt. And he was angry, and he had a right to be angry because there's one of those stories.
This is the back door.
And the story was, this guy in this room worked on one of the ranches, and he was a child molester. And he molested some children on the ranch. And, in those days, they would work 2 months straight or something, and they'd come up and party for 3 weeks or something like that, And so he was up here partying, and parents found out from the kids that this guy's been doing things to them. And so the parents came in, the hotel, found out what room he was, went upstairs, knocked on the door. When he went to answer the door, they literally just filled the door full of holes and dropped it. Notified the sheriff, and the sheriff said, I'll take care of the carcass later. So when I tell that story, because that's the story that we had, some of the mediums would go, someone's in that room, very angry, screaming lies. That's lies, lies, lies. So we're like, okay, then what is the real story then? If this is a lie, tell us what the real story is. We wouldn't get much. So I told the story, and then I was starting to say, well, this could or could not be true. This is the folklore story, because if it's a lie, I don't want to spread the lie because it pisses them off. And the first girl, she goes into the room and goes, this is bullcrap. There ain't no ghost in here, and whoever this guy is whatever. Walks in the room, really defiant. Went, yeah, nothing here. So she walks out and stands in the hall, and her friend goes in, and you heard, get the F out of my room. And you saw her, something grab her here and lift her and shove her out the door. And she went almost clear across the hall and hit the wall and dropped. And this is in front of 4 or 5 people. I mean, it wasn't just me and her friend. It was a group of people standing in the hall and saw her throw. And everybody heard, get the out of my room. And that's when I had to start to deal with the guy because he can't have that. And every time you'd go after that, you'd walk room 7. It was really, really heavy, and he was pissed. Turned out to be that was the mayor fouling. A few months later, some other ghost hunters came in, and they were actually talking to him, and he was all pissed off. We found out the true story about how he got shot, and so he wanted his picture put in room 6, so his picture's now in room 6. And he's calmed down quite a bit, but he's kind of arrogant. He was an arrogant guy. But he was the mayor of the town. He did get murdered. So we try to make sure his true story is told to, make sure that, we're not causing problems.
Your kid, you said your mom. How many kids do you have?
I have 2 of my own, and I'm raising my niece.
Are they a fan of the ghosts, or are they
Yes.
on the scared side of ghosts?
They're a fan of them until they are doing ghost things. So my son, right before we opened the hotel, I had went down into the cafe, and he had ran upstairs, and I kept, I'm like, he knows I'm in here cleaning this. Like, well, why is he up there? And I hear him, and I hear this loud screech, and he comes down, white as a ghost, tears coming down his face. He goes, that's not funny. I don't like that magic trick. That is so mean. Why did you do that? And I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And he goes, how were you upstairs and then you're just show up in the fridge? And I'm like, was not up. I get goosebumps thinking about it. I'm like, I wasn't upstairs. Like, and he goes, that was very mean of you to play that trick. How did you do it? And I'm like, okay, I was up there a few minutes ago and I took the stairs down. There's no way to get from upstairs to downstairs. Okay, but I didn't want to scare him. So sometimes they freak him out, especially if Amelia wants to play with my kids or something and her ball starts following them or her blocks get knocked over. They'll get a little freaked out, but they try really hard to be accepting.
Remember that time we stayed in the hotel when I was in room 5?
Yes.
When I was laying down, I had my door little crack, like this much open. It opens up wider, and I'm just laying on the other side in here. So I look over and I see. I didn't remember how wide it was, and then a few minutes later, well, as I'm trying to lay down, because at like 3 in the morning, because you know I don't go to bed until late, and then all I feel is
Oh, yeah.
getting tucked in, and I'm like,
I guess I'm getting tucked in. And she had to call me. She couldn't get up. She was too scared. On the cleaning cart, we have a toilet bowl cleaner, right? Nothing special. Why would I put room 14's key in the bottom of it and put the toilet cleaner on top of it? Like, does that make any sense? I know I didn't put it there. And then I'll find it and you'll hear, and I'm like, ha, aren't you funny?
And then a whole bunch of other ones we don't know. We see shadow figures, things get moved. Besides Nettie playing jokes on me, she likes to take my tools, set a screwdriver down and go, oh, I'm out of screws. Go down the hall to grab the box, come back, and the screwdriver's gone, and the drill's gone. And I gotta wander around the hotel for 2 hours trying to find it, and I go right back and it's sitting right there. And I was told it was Nettie, and she's just, likes to play with me. There's estimated almost 1,000 spirits in there from multiple eras, but most of them they don't interact. It's only maybe a dozen or so that interact.
Would you recommend folks stay at the hotel?
Oh, of course. Oh, yeah. I mean, a lot of people come for the ghost. Some people just come for the history. We've had people leave in the middle of the night. If you leave in the middle of the night, there are no refunds.
David, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Sharing all your stories. I will definitely be back and hopefully get to stay the night in the hotel.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Ghosts might be the cause of most of the goosebumps in this little ghost town. And while many residents have spooky stories to tell, the stories of Nettie and Amelia prove that this town holds a warm feeling of finding your way home. Tragic of Nettie to lose her child. Scary for Amelia to become lost in the other side. But for some reason, their stories somehow becoming one makes the Shaniko Hotel a hauntingly beautiful place to stay. So come through. Find yourself a room. Stay a while if you can. And make your experience a ghost story worth telling. Welcome to Shaniko, where not all ghosts are lost. Enjoy your stay.
I'm stuck. In the unknown, wandering alone with no sight of home. Wet up, floating right here with nobody near, just me, myself, and my fear. Be a lonely ghost, a faded story that no one knows. Nowhere's the only place to go. I promise that you're doing fine. You'll be okay, just give it time. Got forever to worry in the afterlife.
Can you rise up slowly?
Hello? Ooh, what the fuck?
Established in 1927 in Portland, Oregon, this palace of a place was and has been quite the creative hub of artistic community and connection through story. However, it also holds connections of haunting stories of the past, with mysterious tales of suicide, murder, freak accidents. What wanders the aisles when the veil is thin? Are they friendly ghosts? Bitter spirits? Let's find out and lean in, shall we? Welcome to the Baghdad. Enjoy the movie. I visited McMiniman's Baghdad Theater and Pub in search of exploring its haunting stories, as well as enjoy its charmingly crafted atmosphere. Back in the day, this theater had a slogan for its communal gatherings: "Meet me at the Baghdad." The mission, to gather community and artists alike, continues through McMiniman's since acquiring the theater in 1991. And what a place for gathering. What with its faux Middle Eastern decor, old Hollywood feel, exciting history, the Baghdad is not only a gathering of storytellers and storygoers, but a spectacle to be awestruck by. It's hard to not look up and around and over your shoulder in a place like this, especially knowing there's a possibility of somebody floating right behind you. Maybe. When I arrived, I spoke with one of the opening managers asking for permission to film in the theater. They said no. At least, not yet. I was more than welcome to come and film the exterior of the building as well as inside the pub. So I did. I helped myself to some excessive note-taking over a beer, and then decided that the best meal I could have in preparation for shooting a ghost documentary would be my favorite treat at McMiniman's: their Scooby snacks. They were excellent. And hot. Very hot. They told me to come back later that night when they were closing. I fully expected to only have a short allotted time to capture footage, but the management team and staff were gracious enough to let me hang out and wander around as long as I needed. I even got to ask one of my favorite questions to many of the managers and staff. Have you had any haunted experiences yourself? I asked one of the servers this during my lunch, and he said, "No. I don't believe in that sort of stuff. But I do like to mess with my coworkers that do." He shared that he enjoys whispering their names during closing tasks, but now that I've shared his little prank, maybe he'll experience it for himself. Now he'll believe. I noticed that the staff that had been around a while have faced far more haunting experiences than those most recently hired at the Baghdad. Management had some very interesting stories to tell. Apparently, some of these ghosts like to micromanage the managers, moving files and supplies around to the ghost's liking before their very eyes. One of the managers shared that when her mother came to visit her at work, a ghost thrusted a couple of glasses off of the bar, shattering them to the ground. Everyone in the room witnessed it happen, and no questions asked. They all believed it was a ghost. Well, everybody except one of the servers. The creepiest story of all was told by one of the managers of the backstage bar. She witnessed security footage of what looked like a napkin floating around the Baghdad, going up the stairs, in and out of rooms, aimlessly wandering the theater. However, based on closer inspection from management and the security team, they confirmed it definitely wasn't just a napkin, but quite possibly a ghost from beyond. Many spirits are said to linger the Baghdad, whether they be past employees, moviegoers. The Baghdad holds many haunted and haunting souls. Most notably, there's the stagehand ghost. A maintenance worker and projectionist that held dreams of one day becoming a performer for the stages. Sadly, he never got to take the stage in life, as he took his own backstage at the Baghdad many, many years ago. While grim, His story remains a tale within the theater as he can sometimes be spotted wandering in front of the screen and be heard whispering behind it during the quiet parts of the movie. He's also been described to entertain the children by running up and down the aisles with them. While his end was tragic, his after is heartwarmingly haunting. Even in death, all the world's a stage. Besides the stagehand and micromanaging ghosts, I learned later that other spirits include the ones that wander the upstairs and downstairs restrooms. Several staff shared that they've heard a woman mimic them and hurry towards them in their heels in the upstairs women's restroom, while some folks have felt watched and smelled some rather off-putting men's cologne from a male spirit in the downstairs restrooms. They urged me to explore, so I did. Hello? Hello? Oh, good God. Hello? 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 Coming in. Okay, this one feels... I'm like sweating. Hello? It felt like my every move was being watched. I was completely alone. But it didn't feel that way.
Hello? Oh, what the fuck?
When I explored these areas of the theater, they are where I genuinely felt the most uneasy. But with the unease, there's also this sense of curiosity.
Hi.
What else are ghosts trapped in a theater for all of eternity supposed to do if not interact with us modern-day moviegoers? Should we be grateful for their haunting company? Scared? I don't know. But for this reason alone, I can't help but love the Baghdad. The mission of community and connection doesn't end after death. While haunting, community still continues to thrive in life, and the loaded lore of stories still continues to survive in death. The Baghdad has been up and running for nearly a century now, from talkies of the old days to modern-day cinema. Good beer and good food, the Baghdad Theater and Pub still serves as the perfect palace of a place for gathering on Hawthorne Boulevard. But don't just take my word for it. See for yourself. Have a meal. Grab a beer. Catch a flick. And remember, listen closely, especially during the quiet parts. Meet me at the Baghdad. Enjoy the movie. Love you, Brandon. Hotel. Established in 1900, what started as a boarding house, a lodging for railroad workers, and even a brief stint as a barbershop, the Peerless grew to become one of the oldest and most beloved historic buildings in Ashland, Oregon. Now, it continues to serve as a place to run away and reside to take in a few Shakespearean shows. But also, the Peerless provides the possibility of becoming visited by its forever residents. What peers behind the corners of the Peerless? What bumps and creaks and cracks and rolls around in the day and night? Time to check in, for curiosity's sake, shall we? Welcome to the Peerless Hotel. Enjoy your stay. I ventured out to my old college town in Ashland, Oregon, to check in and to check out one of the most haunting hotels with stories of a paranormal past. Most people wouldn't take a vacation to a haunted hotel in Southern Oregon and not attend the Oregon Shakespeare Festival. I didn't come for Ashland's thespian charm or to drink its lucky lithia water. Instead, I came to explore whatever lies beyond the thin veil of the Peerless. When you arrive to the Peerless Hotel, it's self-check-in. No staff on site, despite the few folks that come in to clean and freshen up the rooms for the next round of guests. The hotel is lusciously littered with history, trinkets, and tales of the past that once ran through these halls. A past that continues to linger longingly to this very day. Whimsy peeks behind every nook and cranny of this 19th century abode. So it makes sense that this historic little building sits in Southern Oregon of all places. The town itself is full of much whimsy. But with whimsical tales also comes haunting stories. So what stories haunt the Peerless? And what if they aren't just tall tales? What if it's all real? The only way to find out is to make yourself at home. When I arrived, I'd made myself cozy, or as cozy as one can make themselves in a haunted hotel. I was completely transfixed on the interior designs of this extravagant and charming little hotel. But I must admit, I was also looking over my shoulder to every little noise that filled the room. I tried telling myself, it's just an old building. But some things I experienced during my stay held happenings I didn't fully know how to put into words. Experiences that made the sidewalk look much more comfortable.
Oh, it's gonna be a long weekend.
My first night at the Peerless Hotel, I ran away from the ghosts for a moment just to be amongst the living at the Peerless restaurant and bar. It was marvelous. I helped myself to some of the best fish of my life, alongside a few whiskey drinks to give myself some liquid courage to tackle a night of ghostly explorations. Not too much, just enough to stay in my own bed for the night. When I returned to my room, tipsy and ready to take on whatever spirits linger the hotel, I decided the best way for me to relax into the night would be to take a bath in the room's jacuzzi tub. I haven't taken a bath like that in quite some time, but utilizing the jets and bubbles and bath salts provided by the Peerless put my fear-ridden body at ease. But alas, the easy feeling was fleeting, and the fear doth return once again. Once under the covers, I couldn't help but question every crack and creak I heard. Again, the building is old. Things can be explained away. But I am a firm believer in ghosts, and I just had this hair-raising feeling I was not alone in this room.
Hello?
I heard stories that these ghosts that roamed the Peerless were nothing to be afraid of, and I kept trying to remind myself this anytime I felt spooked.
Oh, God.
Eventually, I was able to drift off and snooze until my 3 a.m. alarm woke me up to explore the haunting halls. However, my alarm wasn't the one to wake me.
Someone just sat on my bed. Someone sat on the foot of my bed.
What I can only describe as someone small
Like someone
woke
small.
me up with a courtesy call by sitting at the foot of my bed. But when I turned to slowly look and see what it was, I felt the small little someone hop off my bed.
Okay. We are gonna sleep with the lights on all night. Or just keep the lights on and don't sleep. Oh my God, that scared the shit out of me. Okay.
It was 2:58 a.m.,
More to come.
so it was time to wander like one of the ghosts. These were my findings. I'll let the footage speak for itself.
It was a sleepless night at the Peerless Hotel. After I had returned to my room full of adrenaline over everything that I felt, I could not get myself back to sleep. I laid awake with many questions. I pondered these questions over several cups of coffee. Look at that house in my bed. Was it a ghost playing tricks noise? Was it a guest? Is this just an old building?
When left with many questions, you must ask many more to find some answers. So I reached out and was lucky enough to sit down and chat with the previous hotel manager, Michael Biggs.
I worked there for quite a long time. I was the hotel manager and keeper from 2007 till COVID, till 2020.
Wow.
And so I was there a while. I don't know how many people who've been in that building more than me. I averaged 50 to 60 hours a week in that building for 51 weeks a year for 12 years or whatever.
So how does one land a role as the manager of the Peerless Hotel?
Well, the owner, Chrissy Barnett, I ran the Peerless restaurant for about 4 years, and then kind of got burnt out of the business and left it for a while. And then the innkeeper job became available, and I was looking for work. And so, yeah, I long story short, it was a pivot rather than, the lengthy nighttime hours. It didn't really fit my lifestyle of the restaurant. I went to there. I come from restaurant management. Hadn't ever done innkeeper work before, but hospitality is hospitality, and it just it was a good fit for a long time.
That's awesome. Did you enjoy your role as the manager at Peerless?
Yeah, I had a lot of great people. We had, Ashland, especially pre-COVID, was pretty vibrant with the Shakespeare crowd. Had the same people come back every year. You get to know them, get to know what they like, and I'm pretty meticulous, so I could, I did everything there, from cook breakfast and 5 days a week all the way through check-in. So I was there from 7 in the morning until 7 at night, 5 or 6 days a week. So.
Wow. So Peerless was
it's
like
a small place. It's just 6 rooms. So our crew was tiny. We ballooned to 3 people in the summertime, but I counted for 2 because I worked about 12 hours a day most days, 10 to 12.
Wow. So you practically lived there, working that many hours.
Yeah, especially in the winter time when Ashland's very seasonal, and the winter hours were less, but I would be 90% of the crew, so I would be there from 8 in the morning until 6 at night or whatever, and a lot of times alone, an awful lot of time alone there in the winter time, and that's where I don't disbelieve that there is a ghost. I just think it's an incredibly rude ghost, because in my hundreds of hours in there, he, she, it, or they were never very friendly. And,
I see. So not a disdain for ghosts, but just if there is a ghost in the Peerless, you're upset that it never showed itself.
Yeah, it's an incredibly rude ghost if it is, because it could have said hello at some point. I'm not that scary. I didn't realize I was ghosts were afraid of me, but yeah.
You seem like a lovely guy. I wouldn't be afraid of you.
Yeah, I'm adorable. I can't imagine why anybody wouldn't want to hang out with me. As far as that, I just there were stories that were written. Only thing I know about them is what was written. As far as the and things like that. That would be where the owner, Chrissy, who had that experience. Basically, from what I recall of the story, and it wasn't really ever talked about much, but that when they were doing the renovation, they found those marbles in either the walls or in one of the rooms. They completely gutted it. It wasn't just a a redo. It was basically a gutted building and then rebuilt. Everything inside that old shell is new, new timber, new wood, new walls, new everything had to be. It hadn't been used for decades. So so they found those marbles, but then they heard them rolling down the hallway mysteriously.
What I experienced, I genuinely believe, could be none other than the little ghost girl that's been haunting the Peerless since 1910. Amelia. Amelia is just one of many characters that possibly roam the Peerless Hotel. However, she is definitely the most popular and speculated about here. To be honest, I should have expected Amelia's visit. I did, after all, bring a bag of marbles with me to shoot for this documentary, so it's no wonder that she appeared to me. She probably just wanted to play. Despite being dead, she brings the place to life, much like the folks who continue to restore and guests that run away to visit, through curiosity and a sense of play. Very fitting for a town like Ashland, Oregon. The Peerless Hotel, while haunting, is a must-see historic site here in Oregon that has earned its rightful place in the National Register of Historic Places Worthy of Preservation. This award-winning hotel is a charming little hub for creative connection and story in Ashland. After more than a century of life, it continues to live large and stand tall for such a little place to play and stay. So come through. Pack your bags. Book yourself a room, and who knows, maybe you yourself might find life that lived once before you through these haunting halls and regal rooms. Listen for the cracks and creaks that call for you. Thank you.
And be sure to tell Amelia I said hello.
Amelia's got a lot to say. Amelia, hope you enjoy your stay. Amelia, want you to come and play with Amelia's marbles rolling round Peerless today.
Welcome to the Peerless Hotel. Enjoy your stay. Built in 1914 and imagined by Henry Pitzek himself, the mansion still sits tall today on a gorgeous hillside in its French Renaissance style looking over an industrialized Portland, Oregon. But when Henry and his wife, Georgiana, died, did they ever really leave? What other souls wander the halls and grounds of this beautifully haunting mansion? Family? Friends? Possibly foes? With rooms and halls that stretch as far as one's eyes can imagine, could someone spectral still be lurking around behind each and every one of its corners? Only way to find out is to lean into fear and knock. Welcome to the Pitzek Mansion. Enjoy your visit. When venturing out in the hills of Portland to pay a visit to the haunting residents of an even more haunting mansion, one must dress their best. Once suited up and dressed to the nines, I took my drive up a winding and wooded hill into the ever so massive and must-see hotspot for tourists and haunt enthusiasts. The Pitzek Mansion. The Pitzek Mansion was lived in by Henry and his wife Georgiana for only about 4 years before they both passed on to the other side. Georgiana went first. Henry soon followed, and their family and legacy lived on through the mansion and the impact they left behind on Portland.
Enjoy today.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Many guests and folks that have worked the mansion have all shared that they've had some haunting experiences, but nothing too frightening in a place that's considered home. It's no wonder their spirits, along with their past groundskeeper, are still seen sauntering about their beloved home. So much work, time, and effort went into the making of this prestigious place. If I was a ghost, with a place like this as my humble abode, I'd be determined to haunt it like the Pitzeks for the rest of my undead life. Maybe I could. Henry Pitzek headed west for the Oregon Trail when he was 19 years old. Barefoot and penniless, he was determined to find his success. He started as a typesetter for the Oregonian, and eventually grew to become the owner of it all, making decisions that were financially risky and competitive, that would lead the Oregonian to be the success it is continuing to ride and ride out to be. He built a life of adventure for himself and his family through real estate, banking, railroads, steamboats, sheep ranching, silver mining, and of course, the paper industry. He built a life that, in return, helped build Portland into what it is today. The Pitzeks, on paper, were very giving people, contributing to charities and cultural organizations of all kinds. Georgiana Pitzek was the founder and fundraiser for many of these efforts with the likes of the Ladies' Relief Society, Women's Union, and the Martha Washington Home. They not only helped build Portland, but build up many of its people. While this mansion is haunting itself, there's nothing about the spirits that continue to linger here that make it feel like you need to run for the hills. In fact, it holds this great feeling of a craving for company. Feeling this feeling, I got myself a ticket to tour, headed through the doors, and was met by staff that welcome you to explore the stories of the past. Stories lie everywhere in a home of this size. Everywhere you looked held a life, held a family, held an experience, and now, in this moment, holds you. Family, and the family cat, immortalized forever through painted portraits, busts, pictures galore. It's wild to think that right where you're standing, a party was being celebrated. A dinner was being had. A laugh was being shared. So much holds a haunted home. But it also makes me wonder, what holds the Pitzeks that makes them so haunting? The Pitzeks held so much life and speculations with many stories behind their stories, especially a man like Henry Pitzek. When you live a life of much success, general positivity, and many prosperities, enemies are sure to be lurking behind every corner, looking to uncover the unseen. Henry was a man of many feuds. Amongst several of Henry's famous feuds, most notable involving the mansion, stem from Portland City Council member and once employee of the Oregonian, Will H. Daly. He accused Henry Pitzek of inappropriately using taxpayer money to build a private water line through his estate. Henry discredited the accusations and proved that the water line was constructed outside of the city line. And while the truth of taxpayers paying for it rang true, the truth faded away. Daly only wanted to prove that this was a problem and wanted to bring water to all properties in Portland. Despite having won the dispute, Pitzek used his powers to bring an end to Daly's political career. When you have an entire newspaper on your side, your word is the word, whether it's true or not. Even though the Pitzeks held many powerful promises and deliveries in the ever-expanding city of Portland, Henry also caused immense harm with his actions and his words. With ghosts comes skeletons in their closets, and Henry's skeletons were rather questionable. Sure, Henry Pitzek had an inspiring pull-yourself-up-from-the-bootstraps story toward success, but with the success came a competitively aggressive nature that he fully leaned into. He broke promises while he built foundations. He harmed communities of color and caused great division through racist rhetoric in the Oregonian. He performed exploitative business practices. He was a man that took from the many mouths that he also fed. He was a historic and ruthless success story. But success isn't necessarily always a positive synonym to be described as when it all depends on how you got there to begin with. He's a wildly complex character, where many things about him and the legacy he built and left behind holds great spectacles and much-deserved speculations. The history of the Pitzeks is as fascinating as it is haunting. Both can be true at the same time. Building a life. Building Portland. The Pitzeks left behind stories to live beyond. Stories of progress as well as profound harm. A hauntingly beautiful home that lurks over Portland, riddled with a complex history of ghosts with skeletons in their closets to be reminded by. Through historic tours, and quite possibly, ghost sightings. But as always, don't just take my word for it. Wander through the winding roads and trees to take a look at the spooky beauty yourself. See what calls out to you. Who knows what frights might bump into you through these haunting halls. Pay your respects. Or don't. Draw your own conclusions. See what words hold you when you adventure through this haunted mansion. Dress the part. Build a life. And make your own experience a story worth telling. Welcome to the Pitzek Mansion. Enjoy your visit. Once upon a time, when I was 3 years old, I went to the enchanted forest with my family. I remember going to the witch's house. The house was her head, tall and terrifying. When I went through the mouth of the house, I discovered a much scarier looking witch inside, cackling for me.
A sleeping potion I will brew. From an apple red and bright, I'll cause the end of Snow White. Boil, bubble and stew. A sleeping potion I will brew. From an apple red and bright, I'll cause the end of what? Which one is it?
I was scared. I scurried through the house as quickly as I could, trying to find an escape. When I got to the end of the house, I found a slide. Then it was fun. The Enchanted Forest. Opening to the public in Turner, Oregon in 1971, this magical and majestic little theme park took Oregon by storm, creating fond and fairy tale-like memories for its curious guests. But with the many guests that have entered the theme park, did any of them end up overstaying their welcome? Or perhaps, maybe something spectral and sacred was already there to begin with. With eerie animatronics, a dark Disney-like nightmare-fueled storybook lane, haunting tales within haunting tales. What lurks in the trees of this spooky yet soft Little Oregon theme park? Welcome to the Enchanted Forest. Enjoy your visit. When I was just 3 years old, I explored this exact theme park with my family. And now, at 30, I recently drove out and visited Turner, Oregon to buy myself a ticket and journey into the happily homey and haunting Enchanted Forest. Dreamt from the ground up by the mind of Roger Toft, a highway department draftsman and artist. Roger held a passion and a dream to create a place of whimsy for families to embark and enjoy. He purchased 20 acres of land, built storybook figures and small buildings and castles in his backyard, and spent many, many years of his life turning this land on the side of a highway into something everlasting. There were many folks that doubted Roger's visionary idea, with locals bullying his dream and nicknaming the land Idiot Hill. But for what naysayers deemed as a stupid idea, turned out to actually be a successful profit and a getaway for many Oregonians and tourists from then and now. The Enchanted Forest hosted an intimate opening weekend of only 75 guests. Then, 1,000 guests the following weekend that would only continue to grow and grow over the years. Much like the dark and haunting feelings of the park, you can also feel the passion, the care, and the love that Roger poured into every single magical corner. Everything, whether creepy or sweet, is there to remind you life is enchanting and utterly terrifying. Much like Disney, but darker. Eerie animatronics and figures from fairy tales are scattered about the park. But I love this about Toft's vision compared to the watered-down Disney stories that steer away from the dark. In many stories, the dark is necessary and needed. I admired that Roger, whether intentional or not, leans into the aspect of fear with the Enchanted Forest. Not all stories hold happy endings, but they all hold messages that live to be told beyond us. So this begs the question, what lives beyond in the Enchanted Forest? Many rumors and speculations linger within the theme park. disembodied voices, malfunctioning animatronics, peculiar happenings flood the park with mystery that would make one run for the hills. Or in some cases, like myself, all the more curious to dare to enter the park and its many oddities. When you wander the park, you can't help but wonder what stories lie beneath the stories featured as a fun and family-friendly time. There's many stories that lie within the enchanted forest, whether they be ghost stories from guests or the classics from Storybook Lane.
Little Miss Muffet sat on a tuffet, eating her curds and whey. There came a big spider who sat down beside her and frightened Miss Muffet away.
Storybook Lane is one of the most nightmare-inducing walkthroughs. There are numerous guests, and even the staff, that all think so. What with its Disney-like atmosphere, it's truly something out of a grim fairy tale. While Disney makes them out to be, not all fairy tales hold happy endings. So you find yourself hoping that your ending is less gruesome than that of what lies behind the covers of these beloved children's books. The staff, who many happened to be younger and working summer jobs, were very eager to tell me their paranormal experiences. Kate witnessed a bag of chips ominously float from the chip rack to the register. Tatum heard another staff member enter through some rickety doors getting back from break, but discovered that the staff member hadn't actually returned yet. Another staff member heard stories from management about how when they had entered a certain area of the park, it was calm, but suddenly, the area became swarmed with bugs rising from the ground like zombies. Now, many of these instances could probably be somehow logically explained. But what if it's the unexplainable? The unexplainable that thinks it's all that in a floating bag of chips. The staff shared a rather unsettling sense of unease they feel when wandering through the park's haunted house. They shared of animatronics moving on their own accord, banging and moving equipment, falling set pieces, and cold, compressed air shooting out at you in areas of the walkthrough that they don't normally fire out of.
It's handy for looking around corners.
Jeez.
Thank you. Great show. And the our favorite story tonight was
Bye.
If mine and the staff's suspicions ring true, and the haunted house and the park hold a mind of its own, then who or what could it possibly be? The area itself holds a haunting history of colonizers initiating a deadly fight against indigenous Native Americans as the Enchanted Forest sits near the site of conflict of Battle Creek. Guests and staff of the park have been said to spot Native American spirits in their traditional 1800s clothing. We're all standing on stolen land after all, so it's no wonder indigenous ghosts are rightfully haunting a land that has always belonged to them. As much as I love the Enchanted Forest, a much-deserved haunting for us all. Other stories include that of fae folk and non-human entities that roam the park, frightening many children with haunting encounters over the past many years. It's no wonder that a park like this would attract ghosts and creatures like that. After all, Toft, while creating a family-friendly theme park, definitely leaned into the darkness that fairy tales have to offer. And you know what? I'm glad he did. The darkness only makes the moral of the story shine brighter in the end. Or completely shut it off. Depends on the lesson to be learned, I suppose. So what is there to learn from Toft and the haunting history of the Enchanted Forest?
This is the moment when you walk over here and it's truly your fortune. Mondor says to you today, there are no guarantees of life, so you must dance your own dance. You are about as happy as you choose to be. Happiness is a dream, not a destination. There is no better time to be happy than right now. So happily part with a bit of your fortune, and Mondor will be happy to share with you more wisdom. Gather round. I am the great wizard Mondor, will tell your fortune.
The Crystal Gazer has wonderful things in store for you. A dear one will return from a long trip, and your whole life will be different. You have a patient disposition, and your patience is about to be rewarded. Despair not, I say, for your days of despair will soon be over. Your calm spirit and your good sense will see you through all emergencies. You have many friends, particularly in the armed forces. They are loyal to you, and are glad of an opportunity to be of service to you. Play again. Your lucky numbers are 47, 41, 25, 35, 43, and 33.
Thanks, Mondor.
The Enchanted Forest is more than worth the visit. Every corner of the park holds something magical for everyone, whether you believe in hauntings or not. You'll be haunted by the good times provided by the enchanting mind of Roger Toft and the legacy he left behind to live beyond through stories, both fairy tales and ghosts alike. Grab yourself a ticket. Manifest your destiny with Mondor the Wizard. Mark up your map to find every spooky nook and cranny. Get lost in the stories and make memories for yourself to be told on the car ride home, and let your sense of adventure run rampant within the trees and numerous stories behind the stories. Welcome to the Enchanted Forest. Enjoy your visit. The end. the Heceta Head Lighthouse, casting guiding beams through the coastal night since 1894. This lighthouse has served the Oregon coast as a beacon to follow for many sailors and curious tourists in Florence, Oregon. But with the light comes a darkness. And with the darkness, haunting apparitions may follow the rays towards Heceta to haunt their way home. What wanders and wallows near the shallows of a ghostly coast? Are they found by their forever home? Lost in the after like one lost at sea? The only way to truly know is to lean into fear, tread through the dark, and follow the light. Welcome to the Heceta Head Lighthouse. Enjoy your stay. I traveled out to one of the most haunted places in Oregon to explore the history held within one of the brightest lights looming over the edge of the Oregon coast. The Heceta Head Lighthouse was first lit on March 30th, 1894. Standing at 56 feet tall with a guiding light that stretches 21 miles, it was built to bathe the sea with beams of illuminating lights for intrepid mariners that dared set sail into the night. Due to its remote location, the build proved to be difficult to execute as materials needed to be delivered by ship, sculled to shore, then hauled and hiked up the cliffside. Construction began in 1892, was completed in 1893, then took a whole nother year in order to receive the last remaining piece to the puzzle: the light. A first-order Fresnel lens, the largest and most powerful lens for casting light, was only part of the puzzle as they still needed to wait for the lamps to arrive to complete Heceta Head. The Fresnel came from Birmingham, England, built by the Chance brothers, and the lamps shipped all the way from Staten Island, New York. They were final pieces of the glimmering puzzle, but once they arrived in February of 1894, they were assembled in a month and finally lit up the coastal night sky of Oregon. The lighthouse was named by George Davidson in honor of Bruno de Heceta y Duragoitia, who sailed along the Oregon coast as part of an expedition for the Spanish crown in 1775. He turned back due to his scurvy-stricken sailors, but he was sure to take note of the beauty of the land that is now in his name. With the light now in place, the lighthouse was then complete and ready for its first of many keepers. The lighthouse took 3 keepers to operate. Andrew P.C. Hald was the first head keeper to take charge of the lighthouse, with his assistants Eugene M. Walters and John M. Cowan. The next to operate the shining godly light as the head keeper was Olaf L. Hansen, who established much of the land with a legacy that continues to shine bright today, starting gardens and a schoolhouse for the keepers' families that lived on the land. Florido Frank DeRoy, Clifford B. Herman, Sidney H. Elder, John A. Boyer, and last to serve the Heceta Head Lighthouse before it became automated, Oswald Alik. These names served many years of guiding lights, through much sacrifice and treacherous conditions at times, especially for their families. Their wives and children often accompanied the keepers to stay on the land, with a teacher to run the classroom that taught all grades. Year-round isolation, a beautiful coast by day followed by rather unkind nights, the Heceta Head Lighthouse not only serves as the guiding light it provides, but the beautifully haunting atmosphere it ties tightly to. It was a labor of love that led it to where and what it is today. A navigational aid back then, and now, that, and a bed and breakfast. I was welcome to stay in the keeper's home that has now become an inventive and stunning bed and breakfast for tourists that want to reside and explore the haunting lands within and beyond the Heceta Head Lighthouse. You can't help but explore, and the B&B staff encourage you to do so, especially at night, equipping you with a flashlight to wander the trails once the sun sets and the night falls. I stayed in the Cape Cove room, just upstairs in the keeper's house. The keepers designated this room as the coziest of rooms in the keeper's house, and even though I felt a little uneasy with the haunting feelings of the home and land, I also felt a great sense of rest. But I was pretty back and forth between both ease and unease during my stay. A healthy balance, I guess. I especially felt uneasy with the feeling of ghosts, whom many have made themselves known to guests and the staff over Heceta Head Lighthouse's many years of existence. Downstairs, there's not one, but 2 binders full of ghost stories from guests and staff. Several sightings of spectral floating spirits all documented for you to peruse. I learned of many haunted happenings that hold the Heceta Head Lighthouse, from ghost stories to read at your anxious heart's content, and ghost stories to hear over a delicious breakfast. All hosted by the Heceta Head staff and Cecily the caretaker. Cecily was kind enough to share some haunting stories over our meals. Here's what she had to say. All right, we're rolling.
All right, so photographed over there, you'll see Jenny and her husband, who is the second assistant. When I first started working here, I learned a lot about Jenny Avery. She was from Sweden. She moved here and married this husband right here on site. They actually are the only keepers to get married right here. And so she was a very tall lady. She was 6'4", and this is the Victorian era. So that is tall, but very tall for a Victorian woman. Her husband over there, in that photo, you notice that you do not see their feet. That is because he is standing on a wooden crate to appear as tall as she is. And so the first time I was ever giving a history tour, I tell the small group of people about this feature that the husband, and at the time I couldn't remember his name, that's why I'm calling him the husband. Jenny, who I knew so much about, and her husband, who was not a short man, but a man of average height. So he's standing on a wooden crate, and you will never see his feet in any photograph because he's maintaining this image. So I tell the group, and they're laughing a little bit, and then the laughter subsided, and it was a very small group, so it was a very calm day, just kind of like it is now, a little bit of music in the background, and I start talking about something else, moving on, and a photo on the piano over there just slammed forward, and it wasn't that it fell, it smacked forward, and it startled me, so I walked over to the photo and lifted it up to make sure nothing was broken, and it says in capital letters, Frank Leroy, second assistant, and he's towering over Jenny in the photograph. So I feel that that was Frank telling me, first of all, don't forget my name. I have a name, and look at me. Look how handsome and tall, you know. So that was my first, and it was, you know, it was not that spooky, but it was a moment where I felt like, oh, I'm sorry, Frank, I was disrespecting you. Like, letting everyone know your secret, and I couldn't even remember his name at the time.
Well, now he can float as tall as he wants. There you go.
Yeah, right?
Cecily had many fun ghost stories to share. Some humorous, some spooky. But the most terrifying ghost story I heard at the Heceta Head Lighthouse was none other than the mysterious, floating ghost lady, Rue. This ghost story stems from a group of college students that played with the Ouija board at the keeper's house. They were your stereotypical drinking college kids, and from the sounds of their story, were disrespecting the area, especially with the likes of a Ouija board. When they asked if anybody spectral had been living in the home, the Ouija board spelled out R-U-E, deeming the spirit Rue. There's much speculation as to who this Rue could possibly be, or if she had perhaps been attempting to just call the college students rude and just left out a letter, or that they would rue the moment they ever asked of spirits that linger the lighthouse. Records upon records of stories of Rue have dated back to the 1950s. Sightings of a ghostly woman in Victorian-style clothing floating around the area, mysteriously rearranging the furniture, screaming into the night. She has been described as mournful of her daughter who allegedly died tragically at the Heceta Head Lighthouse. Rue, while a seemingly tragic character, has also been described as protective, harmless, and a fairly friendly ghost. She just takes her job very seriously as a caretaker, even in death. There's a story dating back to 1975 of a glass window being shattered in the attic. A lighthouse caretaker went into the attic to repair the window, but noticed a reflection of something in the glass behind him. When he turned around, he was met by a ghostly woman in a Victorian gown staring him down. He fled the attic, leaving it a mess, and didn't return to the project for days until he finally worked up the courage to repair the window from the outside. He left the broken glass on the attic floor. Later that night, the caretakers heard scraping from the attic on the floor, like somebody was sweeping up a mess. The next morning, they discovered a neatly swept pile of glass sitting in the middle of the attic. Who else but Rue? There are several stories like this about Rue, and I believe I myself had an encounter with her. When we entered our room, we left our door open as I was about to leave and explore the grounds to get some footage. I was talking to Kamari about exploring the grounds at 3 a.m. Why 3 a.m.? She asked. 3 a.m. is prime time ghost activity, I answered. And as soon as I answered her question, the door slammed shut. Not just gently closed or pushed by wind. The door was slammed shut. And I think it was Rue. Perhaps Rue was trying to tell us to stay in for the night. Perhaps she was trying to tell us it was too windy for us to walk to the lighthouse so late at night. Perhaps it was an invitation to lean into our fear and explore the grounds anyways. I took it as an invitation, waited for the sun to fade, the darkness to flood the sea and grounds, grabbed my flashlight, and made my way through the night to follow the light.
Hello? Hello? Thank you.
It's frightening to wander the dark, but comforting to know who holds the light. Both the lighthouse and you. With haunting nights for such a beaming light, and darkness that floods the seas and skies, the Heceta Head Lighthouse holds a light of life that draws all towards its magnificent and spectral beauty. One of the most haunted places in Oregon, but also an absolutely stunning place to rest and reside. This historic hidden gem and paranormal-ridden place deserves much of its accolades, as many lives, many stories, whether ghostly or historic, built the Heceta Head Lighthouse into what it is today. Much more than just a light in the darkness, but an inspiration to beam bright ourselves. Through darkness, through story, through ghosts that found the light as it was intended to be, I encourage you to explore yourself. Follow the light. Make your experience at the Heceta Head Lighthouse a story worth telling for the books. Show your respects to Rue and her forever home. And be sure to enjoy as you journey the most haunting places ever on the Oregon coast. Just leave behind the Ouija board. Would hate for you to rue the day you ever step foot into the Heceta Head Lighthouse. Welcome to the Heceta Head Lighthouse. Enjoy your stay.